time is getting somewhat late. We've eliminated a few questions, and we have shortened the answer time to 90 seconds to 1 minute. Absolutely.
Absolutely, totally.
So what we're going to do is we
That was
have
by Andrew, by the way.
2 more questions for
Andrew's filming this. Andrew's
and that's it, except for you all get closing statement.
vote for Nora Reynolds.
You got the ground rules?
All right.
There is, on my list, do we have a representative from South Plain Fire and Rescue here to make a short presentation at the end? Is that correct? Yes, I see a head nod. Yeah, short meeting 5 minutes. So we'd ask everybody to stay for that portion. Okay, here we go. We're doing mayoral candidates. I think that's where we left off here. And Brent gets the first shot at the question. How will you direct and monitor the city administrator and staff who are supporting the local business?
First and foremost, we are going to work with the city administrator to set clear and achievable goals. One of those is to build up the economic development of our city. There will be goals such as going out and trying to attract business, recruit business, going out and meeting with each of the businesses in the community to see what their struggles are. I have an earful to give him, being a small business owner in the city. And the city administrator and city government will be held accountable to those goals, to those achievements that we set on paper. And if they don't meet them, it will show up in their reviews and more than likely in their pay or lack of pay raises.
Thank you, Brent. AJ, how will you direct and monitor the city administrator and staff who are supporting the local business?
Well, Doug, I think this comes back to my earlier argument about oversight on city staff and making sure that we're asking the right questions. I have a plan in the O'Connell administration to directly support our existing small businesses, be able to create a climate within the city that's conducive to businesses coming within and settling and hiring local workers, and then attracting future businesses and larger firms as well. And the first thing that I would like to do in the O'Connell administration is establish a microloan program where we can give low interest, low cost loans to existing small businesses if they meet certain criteria of hiring X amount of local workers, of committing to green sustainable development. This committee, which will work with city staff and overseeing this program, will be made up of politicians, citizens, business owners as well, making sure that we are keeping an eye out on our money and making sure that we are strengthening our existing small businesses at the same time that we're creating the climate to attract new ones.
Thank you, AJ. And David, how will you direct and monitor the city administrator and staff towards supporting local business?
What are the policies set in motion already by the city council that direct the administration in all their relationships with businesses in Crestwell? Council sets the policies. What are they? So I think it's high time for a review of all of our policies that relate to business in Crestwell, first and foremost. And those policies should be changed. I think that we should make it the goal to make it as easy as possible to do business in Crestwell. But second, I hear a lot of concern just about customer service when people come into city halls, how businesses are treated. So we need to talk about customer service. How
draw more businesses to the city of Crestwell? Jane?
First of all, I would work with the Chamber of Commerce to maybe give them more structure, have them maybe take some classes or something to learn more about dealing with business and working with people who come in new. Also, we have a new program that Cottage Grove and some of the other cities have taken up for giving businesses some incentives for coming in. We don't use it so far, but Cottage Grove has did some really nice things with theirs, so I know it's useful. So I use that.
Thank you, Jane. Jack, what strategies would you use to draw more businesses to the city of Crestwell?
Use the enterprise program or funding through the county of Oregon. Working with County Grove to designate land and help the people get the business going. There is programs in place to do this, and working on those to get the enterprise zones and or several other programs to designate land and to get it going.
Thank you, Jack. Nora, what strategies would you use to draw more businesses to the city of Crestwell?
I think if we are a more welcoming community to the people, and I actually think that having one of the highest water and sewer rates in the state is a deterrent to people coming here and getting into a business because, the overheads in a business are quite high without the water and sewer problem. So if we could get that taken care of, I think, and have a more welcoming atmosphere in this little community, I think we would be more apt to draw in new people and new businesses.
Excuse me. Thank you. Al, what strategies would you use to draw more businesses to the city of Crestwell?
One of the things I'd like to see is the city manager and the city staff be more welcoming to prospective business owners and tell them what they can do, not just what they can't do in Crestwell. I'd like to see help from the city hall, not hindrance. I think that's hurt a lot of businesses' idea of Crestwell, that we're not a friendly city, and that's what we are, a friendly city, should be.
Thank you, Alan. Now we're headed back to the, excuse me.
Council, objection.
Objection is sustained. I was trying to move us on, but Jacob, what strategies would you use to draw more businesses to the city of Crestwell?
Well, thank you for the question. I actually agree with Jack Radel on the fact that we need to promote the enterprise zone. I think that was a great thing done by the past administration, was to get that enterprise zone in place with Cottage Grove. That allows certain businesses to move in here to Crestwell and not pay property taxes for 3 to 5 years, so long as they're employing a certain amount of people, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a great thing for attracting outside business. Secondly, we have to end all this litigation. It sends a bad message to businesses when we're in lawsuits with some of our most important small businesses in town. And then lastly, we have to invest in and we have to support our local businesses. I'll keep coming back to it, but why aren't we advertising in the Crestwell Chronicle? Why are we advertising in the Register Guard? It's about supporting our community, and City Council and City Hall needs to lead by example, and they need to invest in this community.
Thank you, Jacob. My apologies for almost missing you. I believe we're done with the council candidates on that question. Moving on now to the mayoral candidates. And AJ, we're back to you for the first answer to the question. A little bit longer question. The city administrator is responsible for overseeing city employees, while the mayor and the council are responsible for the city administrator. what process do you intend to use to oversee and review the city administrator? And what goals do you anticipate setting for the city administrator in the next year? Two-part question.
Does that mean I get more time?
No. 1 minute.
I'm going to go back. This is like a broken record. It needs to come down to oversight and making sure that we're asking the right questions of our city administrator. The city administrator works for the city council and for the mayor, not the other way around. We need to make sure that we are directing our city staff and specifically our city administrator onto projects that have clear, definitive, and quantifiable goals. As a city councilor, I've been very, very involved in making sure that our city administrator is not running amok, that he is doing everything with consent of the city council. We need to be making sure as a city council and as a mayor that we're asking the right questions of our city administrator, making sure where are your efforts being directed. In the future, I would like to see more work sessions done with the city council, the mayor, and the city administrator to establish these clear, definitive goals that we're working towards.
You're done. David, what process do you intend to use to oversee and review the city manager, part one? What goals do you anticipate setting for the city manager in the next year, part two?
What process do you use for reviewing its position? First thing I would want to do is understand very thoroughly what the process is that has already been used, what the review system has been used, and is that sufficient? If not, I would look for best practices for reviewing the position of the city administrator. And I'm sure there are many of those out there once we begin to do the research. So I would ask the question, what's the best way to review the city administrator? Second, goal. Public relations, huge goal. Our city administrator and his staff. Finances, huge. We need to talk about how that's going to happen in a way that is responsible. In addition, the council needs to set the goals for the administrator for job performance. And I would ask the administrator, what are your goals? You've been in this position many years. What do you need to do a better job? So those are all pretty much standard practices when a person is being reviewed. What do we, the employer, think you need to do better? What do you think you need to do better at? Stop.
Thank you, David. Moving on to Martha. What process do you intend to use to oversee and review the city manager, part one? And what goals do you anticipate setting for the city administrator in the next year, part two?
Well, one of the issues I have perceived is that our city management operates as a public entity. They don't operate within the same rules that a private business would necessarily be held to. And I would suggest that the review process proceed for the city administrator's position similar to what one might see for an executive officer in a privately held corporation, where there's a job description with measurable benchmarks and goals, similar to what Dave Strand was saying. I'd like to understand how we communicate to him what his job is, his or her, whoever is the administrator, what their job is and how they're doing it. As far as goals, I would want to set up goals that demonstrate growth, including customer service surveys and surveys of the business community so we get direct feedback. And in the few moments that I have left, what I'd like to suggest is something...
You don't have any feedback. And we appreciate you stopping. Brent, what process do you intend to use to oversee and review the city administrator? And part two, what goals do you anticipate setting for the city administrator in the next year?
For the last 20 years in executive management and financial institutions, I've written a lot of reviews. And the city administrator is not much different. We simply need to sit down and make sure that the job description matches the function for the job. If it doesn't, it needs to change. If it does, we set measurable goals, some of the goals that need to be set. What is he doing to promote business within the city? What is he doing to promote a friendly, welcoming city hall? What is he doing to complete the audits? The audit needs to be one of his goals every single year, and if he doesn't complete it, he doesn't get paid. So we will measure, we will set goals, and we will pay according to achievement of those.
Thank you, Brent. Jack, we're coming to you now. This is the final question for the counselors. We're done with the mayoral candidates. This question is also from a Creswell High School student. So, Jack, why are we not utilizing the public building on Cobalt Lane? It seems to be a valuable asset for the community.
At present, the Cobalt building is rather extensive. One of the reasons we've partnered with Willamette Lane is they have 100+ years of experience of developing park systems. The city of Creswell doesn't have that much to develop that, and that's one of the reasons why we partnered with them and trying to see where we can go and how we can do it.
Thank you, Jack. Nora, you're next on this one. Why are we not utilizing that public building on Cobalt Lane?
You know, I'm not really sure if I know the answer. We've actually, that building we've been paying for 5 years, and so we're losing money on it yearly. And we've had Head Start wanted to be in that building and was turned down. And the kids are on a bus from Head Start here to Saginaw and back. There's 2 classes, a morning class and an afternoon class, and those buses go back and forth 4 times a day. So it doesn't make any sense. The after-school program, they asked to go into that building. We're told they could not go in. I don't really know. I think somebody that has more authority than I probably should, or I could, as a counselor, could bring that up at a meeting and ask that question and find out why it's not occupied.
Thank you, Nora. Alan, same question. Why are we not utilizing that building?
Well, it's my understanding that the main problem is bringing the building up to standards where it's legal and safe to use for various purposes. And that's an expensive and time-consuming process that is being worked on, but it's taking a lot of effort and a lot of time seeking grants and seeking funding and seeking help from other organizations to do. And that's comes from what I heard at council meetings. I'm not entirely sure that's correct, but that's my understanding.
Jacob, you got the question?
Yes, sir. Well, I've been working with Steve, our rare intern, who agreed to stay here for a second year. I'm very happy to have him, and we're working on the Cobalt Tools building. We actually set up something called the Recreation Advisory Committee. I think it has a little bit longer of a title, and Steve can correct me later on that. It's comprised of 3 city councilors, 3 school board members, and we just brought in 3 community members to help out. We're partnering with Willamette Lane. Part of my efforts working to bring a satellite nursery for the Family Relief Nursery here to Creswell would be to put that nursery into the Cobalt Tools building and add upon that and earn grants, et cetera, I believe the property is zoned for Parks and Recreation, so that's why it's not filled right now. And then also there is 3-phase power in there, which is going to be costly to remove. And so it's an expensive process, and we're trying to do it on a shoestring budget and not burden the taxpayers. But there has to be some after-school activities, and we're working on it.
Jane, same question. You got it?
I got it. One of the things about the Cobalt building is that it has been studied to death. We have paid for so many consultants, had people come in, we're paying